another issue is you've suggested that raising the retirement age of Supreme Court judges might actually help in a lot of ways to address a few of the issues that are plaguing the court right now. How will this help potentially?
There are several concerns. I'll maybe just mention a couple that might be particularly noteworthy. So we talk about retirement age, partly because if you look across the world at what limitations the law in different countries places on how long Supreme Court justices can stay and or how old they can be before they retire, India is unusual in how early it requires judges to retire from the Supreme Court. So most countries that have a retirement age for their Supreme Court judges, the retirement age is 70. In the United States, is unusual in the other direction. There's no age limit to being a Supreme Court justice in the United States, and I'm not going to endorse that as a rule either. But just to provide context to say that India has an unusually early retirement age, and so it's worth asking what is gained, but also what might be lost from having such an early retirement age. And one of the things that we identify is that a judge of the Supreme Court who must retire at age 65, they're usually in a position where they would rather keep working. They don't want to leave public life entirely. What that means is, well, they want to have a position in public life after retirement. But some of the best positions available to judges of the Supreme Court are positions in the government of India.
Right.
And what that means is, although that doesn't mean that they'll necessarily act on this incentive, there is an incentive as a judge, while a judge, to maybe decide cases in a way that makes a future employer happy, because you might just want to create opportunities for employment after you retire. Now, our data, to be clear, does not say and cannot say whether any judge ever changed their vote to favor the government in any case or not. We're not making any claim like that. However, there is research by other scholars that says that on average, it does appear to be the case that sometimes judges start to vote more in favor of the government as retirement approaches. And one concern that I think should be considered when we think about the age at which judges should retire is, are we creating an incentive for judges to maybe favor the government in cases for reasons that don't have to do with the law, but instead have to do with the need for employment after they retire? So I think that's one very serious concern, and one for which, although the evidence is by no means conclusive, there certainly is evidence to suggest that we should be concerned about this. The other thing that I'll mention is one of the things that's very unusual about the composition of the Supreme Court of India is, because retirement age is so early, each judge does not spend that much time on the court together with other judges. The average tenure of a Supreme Court judge is 6 or 7 years. The average tenure of a Chief Justice is very short, 1 or 2 years in many cases. And what that means is there's less of an opportunity for judges to really form a set of consistent norms and to invest in creating an institution that can take the long view and say, what is this court going to try to accomplish for all of the courts of India over a period of many years? Instead, judges are constantly joining, constantly retiring, and this turnover leads to I think, a different dynamic than we would expect if judges would spend more years on the court together, and perhaps chief judges and other judges would have more of an opportunity to think about ways in which the court could be more of a Supreme Court in the way that we were talking about earlier, a court that's not simply granting access to parties, but rather thinking about how to create law that improves access to justice for all of the courts of India.
I think you also suggested as a way to address the senior advocates problem, because oftentimes the judges, the Chief Justice himself would retire at a very early age, and the senior advocates who are arguing before him have decades more experience than he does, and probably is someone that the Chief Justice or the other judges looked up to while they were lawyers or while they were judges in other courts. So yeah, that makes sense.